Jackie Gleason's life was bigger than anything on TV. He was once called the Great One, but after the laughter there was a haunting quiet. That big house he built with his fame and money is now empty, a ghost of the good times he lived in. Not many people know the whole story of his troubled marriages, his children who were separated from him, and the sad ending to his life. What happened to the man who made a lot of people laugh, but when they died they left behind lies? Start the video to hear what Jackie Gleason has to say. This may not be known to you. Over the years, Jackie Gleason's health and way of life were affected by a complex mix of his own habits and the stresses of having a famous entertainment job, which had a major negative impact on his health. In the early 1950s, when he was at the height of his fame with the CBS show The Jackie Gleason Show, Gleason was already doing things that were known to be very bad for his health. It is known that he smoked an amazing 6 packs of cigarettes every day as early as 1952. His heavy smoking habit alone made people worry about his long-term health, especially since there was more and more proof at the time that smoking can cause lung and heart diseases. Gleason's health was already bad, and he had always had trouble controlling his weight. For most of his adult life, he went up and down in weight, sometimes reaching close to 300 lb and other times dropping as low as 185 lb. Such big changes in weight show that he had major problems with his food and metabolism, which were made worse by the way he lived. His food habits were known to be very bad for you. Large amounts of red meat and rich, sugary sweets were what he usually ate. Along with drinking too much alcohol and not working out, he didn't eat many veggies or other healthy foods. These things caused his health and energy to slowly get worse over time. In his book, The Golden Ham, an honest biography of Jackie Gleason, author Jim Bishop talks about how Gleason's weight changes affected his life. It is said by Bishop that Gleason needed 3 different wardrobes because his size was always changing. The physical damage his habits caused is shown here, but it also shows how complicated his cell, image and health were on an emotional and mental level. The weight changes from 185 to 285 pounds put Gleason's body under steady stress, making it harder and harder to keep up his stamina, especially since he worked in TV, theater, and movies. One of the worst things that happened to Gleason because of this way of life was that it caught up with him during his tour of Larry Galbart's play Sly Fox in 1978. Gleason had chest pains, which were so scary that they forced him to have triple bypass surgery, which is a big heart procedure. This surgery was very important because it briefly stabilized his heart condition and showed how dangerous his lifestyle was for his health. Even with these problems, Gleason kept working and giving strong results. One of his most memorable later parts was in the comedy drama Nothing in Common, which came out in 1986 and starred Tom Hanks. Gleason played an abrasive and sick character in this movie who was similar to the rough, outspoken Archie Bunker. His complex and heartfelt performance earned him praise from critics. But while this movie was being made, Gleason was secretly dealing with a much worse health problem. He was told that he had colon cancer that had spread to his liver, which means the disease was very far along and could kill him. Besides being told he had cancer, he also had phlebitis, disease of the veins, and diabetes. Both of these issues made his health and treatment choices even more difficult. Surprisingly, Gleason decided to keep these medical problems a secret, so his fans and the public didn't know how much pain he was in. There were rumors that his health was getting worse, but Gleason kept quiet and worked hard at his skill until the end. Sad to say, Jackie Gleason died at his home in Florida on June 24, 1987. He was 71 years old. Someone who was liked and important in the entertainment world of the 20th century died. Man whose sense of humor, kindness, and larger-than-life attitude had touched a huge number of people. As a solemn tribute to his Catholic religion, a funeral mass was held at the Cathedral of St. Mary after he died. After that, Gleason was buried in a sarcophagus in a private outdoor cemetery at Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Cemetery in Miami. This peaceful memorial to a man whose life was full of both great success and deep personal problems is where he is buried. Next to him is his sister-in-law June Taylor, who was famous as a choreographer and an important part of Gleason's life and work. She is buried to the left of the mausoleum with her husband, the lawyer Saul Lerner. The fact that their graves are close to each other shows how important family was to Gleason both during his life and after he died. Now let's talk about Jackie Gleason's homes. Buying a house in Hialeah, Florida in 1965 was a big step for him. It started a new period in his personal and business life. This house was right next to the golf course at the prestigious Country Club of Miami. This location was great for Gleason's deep love of golf, which would become a big part of his life in Florida. The property he chose showed how much he loved golf, and how much he wanted to live in a neighborhood where leisure and golf were important parts of daily life. This purchase was interesting because it happened soon after Gleason made a big change in his work. His very famous TV show had been based in New York City for a long time, but in 1964 he moved it to Miami Beach. In the mid-1960s, warmer climates and new filming locations were becoming more and more sought after in the entertainment business, which led to this move. By buying a house in nearby Hialeah, Gleason put himself close to Miami Beach's busy party scene while also getting away from the intense attention of Manhattan and into a more private and relaxed environment. There aren't many specifics in public records about Gleason's Hialeah home style of architecture, size, or interior features. However, the fact that it's right next to the Country Club of Miami golf course suggests that it was built for comfort and relaxation. Gleason played golf for more than just fun. It was an important part of who he was and what he did every day. Since he lived close to the course, he could play golf more often without having to drive, which improved his quality of life as he got used to living in Florida. The Country Club of Miami, which is known for its well-kept greens and friendly attitude, was a good setting for Gleason, who lived in South Florida and was famous for getting involved with the community. The house in Hialeah marked a time of change for Gleason. He lived there most of the time in the first few years after moving his TV production to Florida. It was like a home base while he got used to living in a new place. In the middle of the 1960s, this was a turning point for Gleason as he tried to balance his busy work life with his desire for personal leisure and rest. Moving south and buying this golf course adjacent property showed that his priorities were changing. He was putting more value on health and leisure while still keeping a busy work routine. After staying in Hialeah for a while, Gleason made another big move in Florida in 1971 when he moved to the Inverary golf community. Inverary was known for its high-end homes and championship golf courses, which fit nicely with Gleason's growing reputation in the area as a serious golfer and socialite. His move there showed that he was looking for an even more exclusive and golf-focused place to live, building on what his previous Hialeah residence had done. As for what happened to the Hialeah land after Gleason left, not much is known about it in public, like whether it was sold, kept, or changed over the next few years. Because it has to do with Gleason's life and work, it is still an interesting part of his personal history, especially for fans and historians who want to know how his life went when he wasn't in the spotlight. There was more to the house than just a place to live. It was a real sign of how Gleason had become a part of the South Florida way of life and how he had made golf his main love. Jackie Gleason made a big move in 1971 that cemented his reputation beyond TV. He moved into a beautiful 6,000 square foot lake front estate at 3425 Willowwood Road in the exclusive hills of Inverary neighborhood near Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This beautiful house, which people lovingly called Glay Manor, was more than just a home. It was a luxurious private retreat that was carefully made to show off Gleason's lively personality, his love of fun, and his desire to live in style. The estate was built exactly how Gleason wanted it, and it was a beautiful 14-room mansion with 6 large bedrooms and 8 bathrooms, plenty of space for family and friends. Every part of the house was designed to fit Gleason's lifestyle as a socialite and performer. The house's size and style showed Gleason's love of the grand, making it a famous symbol in the Inverary community, a well-known haven for wealthy residents and avid golfers, which fit Gleason's lifelong love of the game. The pool room was one of the most interesting things about Glay Manor. Made in partnership with the legendary pool player Willie Mosconi, who is widely regarded as one of the best players ever, this specially made billiard room was the heart of social events, where Gleason could play his favorite game while entertaining coworkers and friends. The room was elegant and showed a lot of respect for the sport. It was a perfect mix of skilled craftsmanship and Gleason's own tastes. The house also had a private sauna where Gleason could unwind and recharge after long days on the set or the golf course. An indoor aviary was one of the home's unusual and one-of-a-kind features. It showed how much Gleason loved nature and wanted to make a space that was as interesting inside as it was peaceful outside. There was a peaceful retreat with birds in the aviary, which added a bit of nature to the fancy estate. Gleason's house was clearly all about hospitality, which was shown by the 5 fully stocked bars that were spread out around the land. One of these bars stood out. It was a bottle of George Dickel Tennessee whiskey that was made just for Gleason. This specially made liquor became a sign of his high standards and his love of celebrating in style. The many bars made it possible for guests to get drinks no matter where they were in the house, which helped create the easygoing social mood that Gleason loved. The entertainment room was the real heart of Gla Manor. It was a unique place that could be used for both relaxing and throwing fancy parties. A bar that was sunk into the floor made this room feel warm and cozy, great for having drinks and talking. The eating area next to the bar was designed to look like a fancy restaurant with fancy furniture and a classy atmosphere. This restaurant-style eating area was the setting for many memorable events that Gleason put together for some of the biggest names of the time. Frank Sinatra, a longtime friend and fellow showbiz icon, and President Gerald Ford were among the famous people who visited Gla Manor. This shows that the estate was a popular place for politicians and celebrities to get together. These trips made Gleason's power and status stand out, and they also showed how the house was a place where people from different cultures could meet and talk. After Gleason's death in 1987, his wife Marilyn Taylor continued to live in the house until 1992. She kept the home's atmosphere and kept the memory of Gleason's full life alive there. After that, the land was sold to Joseph Celentano for $450,000, which was the end of an era. Surprisingly, the house didn't change much over time. It still had many of Gleason's original decorations and furniture, as well as the unique personality that made Gla Manor stand out. Years later, in 2015, the estate was put up for auction. It was interesting not only because of its architectural and historical value, but also because it had a clear link to one of the most famous people on TV. After that, it was put on the market for $299,000 in 2016, giving people a rare chance to own a piece of showbiz history that had been kept almost exactly as Gleason had left it. Even though Jackie Gleason lived in many places, the roundhouse at 196 Furnace Dock Road in Cortlandt Manor, New York, is his most famous and most representative home. This unique home, which was built in 1959, stood out not only for its innovative design, but also for the story it told about Gleason's deep interest in UFO, the supernatural, and living a life that didn't follow the rules. People lovingly called the roundhouse the mothership. It was a work of art that looked like it came straight out of a science fiction movie and was based on a UFO. At the time, its round shape was very new and innovative. Exhibits a futuristic style that is rarely seen in residential building. The house was designed by architect Robert Sika, who studied under the famous Frank Lloyd Wright. Wright's impact can be seen in how well natural materials and new design ideas worked together. A Swedish shipbuilder put together the house before it was delivered, and it was built inside an airplane hangar, which was an odd way to build something that made it look like it came from another world. Taking up about 950 feet of space, the roundhouse was on a huge 4-acre farm that included more than just the main house and a number of impressive outbuildings. One of them was a smaller round home called the Spaceship, which went with the theme of the main house and gave the estate a fun, whimsical touch. The Barracks, a traditional stone guest house with a different type of architecture, offered more traditional lodging for visitors. Later, 2 in-ground swimming pools were added to the grounds, making the property feel even more like a high-end lodge. There was nothing but beauty inside the mother ship. The beautiful marble spiral staircase that gently went up was the focal point of the home's interior. It was both elegant and mysterious like the universe itself. One of the most impressive features was a huge 40-foot tall fireplace that weighed an amazing 240 tons. It held the living room together and sent a strong message of grandeur and strength. Everyone who came in was amazed by this fireplace, which was both a work of art and a useful feature. In keeping with Gleason's love of parties and his lavish lifestyle, the house had 4 fully stocked bars. One of them was built to comfortably seat 13 people, making it perfect for throwing fancy parties and gatherings. The house even had a broadcasting station, a nod to Gleason's long and successful career in radio and TV. This gave him the freedom to be creative from the comfort of his amazing home. The serious interest Gleason had in UFO and the supernatural was shown by the fact that the roundhouse had a library with all of his books on these topics. This private sanctuary showed how interested he was in things that were outside of the norm and gave him a place to enjoy his intellectual interests away from the public eye. The master bedroom was also very different. It had an 8-foot diameter round bed that went with the overall circle theme of the house. The next door bathroom had a big round shower with more than 10 shower heads that made it feel like a spa and went well with the future style of the house. The roundhouse took 6 years and $600,000 to build, which is about $6 million today. It was a big, expensive project that perfectly showed Gleason's larger-than-life attitude. The house became a draw for famous people and important people in the world at the time. Marilyn Monroe and Frank Sinatra, 2 stars of Hollywood's golden age, were there as guests of honor. There was also a rumor that Gleason and Nixon went on a private trip to Homestead Air Force Base in 1973 to look at what were thought to be alien remains. President Richard Nixon was also a guest, a story that has become part of the strange tale about the house and Gleason. The house changed hands several times after Gleason sold it to CBS in the 1960s. After that, Pace University held it until an orthodontist bought it in 1976 for only $150,000, a small part of what it cost to build and a lot less than its true architectural and cultural value. The property's one of kindness and historical importance led to a selling price of $12 million in 2018, which reflected its size, innovative architecture, and the star power of Gleason. It was sold for a while as this amazing piece of architecture is available for rent for €40 a month, making it a rare chance for someone to live there. The house is not for sale right now, but the owners are still accepting bids around $12 million. Which shows how desirable and prestigious this estate will always be. Jackie Gleason had a lot of relationships and marriages in his personal life, which showed how the pressures of his rising fame and the often clashing needs between his public and private personas affected him. Once, too, his love and marriage path began in vaudeville and went on for decades through Hollywood's golden age, shaping a lot of his feelings along the way. Gleason met Genevieve Halford for the first time while they were both working in vaudeville, a popular form of entertainment in the early 1900s that included dancing, comedy, and music shows. Genevieve, who is also a great dancer, shared the stage and backroom life with Gleason when they were just starting out. Their working relationship turned into a love one, and on September 20, 1936, they got married. Even though they had a lot in common, their union soon showed that they had very different ideas about what life should be like. Halford wanted a calm and quiet home life, which was very different from Gleason's busy nightlife and growing fame. This difference caused problems early on in their marriage. In 1941, only 5 years after getting married, they split up for the first time. This shows how their different wants and Gleason's growing fame put a strain on their relationship. But they made up 7 years later in 1948, showing that they were ready to try again despite the problems. Nicole was born in 1940 and Linda was born in 1942. Jackie and Genevieve had 2 girls while they were together. Both of their children grew up in the shadow of their father's rising career. Linda finally went into the entertainment business herself. The responsibilities of Gleason's job and way of life continued to make family life difficult. By 1951, Gleason and Halford had grown apart again, which led to a second, less official split. During this time, Gleason's personal life got even more complicated when he started dating his maid, Honey Merrill. Not only was Merrill famous for her job, but she was also a showgirl and was named Miss Hollywood in 1956. These activities added to Gleason's interesting and sometimes scandalous life outside of acting. In early 1954, Gleason's career took a physical hit when he broke his leg and ankle during a live broadcast of his TV show. It was a rare accident that kept him out of action for a few weeks. This event made the problems in his marriage stand out more. Halford went to see him in the hospital while he was getting better and was shocked to see Marilyn Taylor, a dancer from Gleason's TV show, also there. This finding made things worse between Gleason and Halford, and in April 1954 she filed for legal separation. Even though they were no longer together, Halford's strong Catholic faith made her reluctant to give a divorce, which she did not do until 1970. Because of the long delay, Gleason's love and marriage life became even more complicated, since he was still formally married to Halford even as he started dating other women. The two met in 1968 at a country club where Beverly M. Kittredge worked as a maid. When they met, it was the start of a new time for Gleason. Gleason married M. Kittredge in Ashford, England on July 4, 1970, 10 days after finally getting a divorce from Genevieve Halford. However, this second marriage didn't last very long. In 1975, they got a divorce, ending their 5-year marriage. After his marriage to M. Kittredge ended, Gleason got back together with the dancer Marilyn Taylor, whom he had met years before. In December 1975, they got married and stayed together until Gleason's death in 1987. Taylor was not only his wife, but also a constant companion in his later years, spending the last few years of his life with him. Gleason left a lasting impression on his family as well as the people he was close to. His daughter Linda became an actress and married actor and writer Jason Miller. Their son, Jason Patrick, continued the family custom by becoming a successful actor. This continued the Gleason line's influence on American entertainment. There are also two things that almost no one knows about Jackie Gleason: his fear of flying and his particular interest in strange things that happen in the night. Jackie Gleason's well-documented fear of flying had a huge effect on how he traveled for many years, changing how he traveled between work and home obligations. Today, air travel is seen as normal and easy for celebrities who are always on the go. But for Gleason, it was stressful and a turning point in his early career that changed the way he thought about transportation for the rest of his life. Gleason's fear of flying started when he was just starting out in the movie business. A time of lots of new possibilities, but also of unpredictable and sometimes dangerous air travel in the middle of the 20th century. As Hollywood called, Gleason often traveled back and forth between the sides, especially between Los Angeles, which is where most of the movie business was based, and New York, where he did most of his TV work. Even though these trips were usually for small parts or short-term projects, they showed him how people were becoming more and more dependent on planes as a fast way to travel long distances. There is one event that stands out as the main reason why Gleason doesn't like flying. When the plane was on its way to New York, it had a serious technical problem. While the plane was in the air, 2 of its engines stopped working. Because of this very important situation, the pilot had to make a dangerous emergency landing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This terrifying event, which was full of the fear of not knowing what would happen and the harsh truth of what could happen, changed Gleason's mind forever. When Gleason's safety landed in Tulsa, he was still a long way from where he was supposed to be. There weren't many choices for him back then, before travel networks and computers made things easier. At this point, the owner of a nearby hardware shop did something kind by lending Gleason $200, which was a lot of money at the time, and allowed him to buy a ticket on a train going to New York. This act not only helped Gleason keep going on his trip, but it also showed the kindness and connection between people that were often at the heart of travel disaster stories. From that day on, Gleason's experience with flying was very different. He mostly avoided flying in favor of trains, which he thought were more comfortable and easier to handle. The steady, rhythmic motion of a train and the freedom to move around inside gave me a sense of control and safety that I don't get from the tight area and complicated mechanics of an airplane. Many years, Gleason only took the train to get around, even though flying might have been faster or easier. His dependence on trains as his main way to get around shows both his own fears and the general state of American travel in the middle of the 20th century. Even though trains were slower than planes, they were a well-known and reliable way to travel across the country. They connected towns in a way that met Gleason's needs for comfort and dependability. The slow pace also gave people time to rest, think, and get ready for shows, which could be especially helpful for a busy entertainer who has a lot to do. As it turned out, Gleason's dislike of flying didn't hurt his business, which took off thanks to TV, movies, and live shows. But it did make things more difficult, especially since the entertainment business liked flying more and more because it was faster and more efficient. In a time of rapid technological progress, Gleason's preference for train travel stood out as an oddity. It showed how personal fears and professional obligations can clash. Over time, Gleason's fear of flying became part of his public image. Fans and coworkers would tell this story with a mix of sorrow and humor. It gave the larger-than-life entertainer a human side by showing that his strong, sure of himself figures were actually vulnerable. It was a good lesson from his story that even the most famous and fearless people have deep-seated fears that can affect their choices in very important ways. Next, Jackie Gleason's interest in the supernatural was a less well-known but very interesting part of his personality. Even though Gleason is mostly known as a famous comedian, actor, and entertainer, he was also very interested in things that were outside of normal human experience. Many people in the middle of the 20th century were interested in secrets like the supernatural, UFO, and parapsychology. He was intellectually open and willing to look into them. Gleason spent a lot of time studying the supernatural after the 1950s and before that. He built up a big library of books on a wide range of connected subjects, from parapsychology, the scientific study of psychic phenomena, to UFO, unidentified flying objects, and their investigations. What you read were not just for fun. They were part of a serious effort to find answers to questions about things that don't make sense. Gleason's interest was typical of a time in American culture after World War II, when people were becoming more and more interested in UFO, aliens, and supernatural events. This was caused by worries about the Cold War and exciting news stories. Gleason's interest in the supernatural wasn't limited to reading by himself. In the 1950s, he started to appear on John Nebel's overnight radio show mostly about ghosts and other supernatural things. Nebel's show was one of the first places where people talked about ghosts, psychic events, UFO, and conspiracy theories. Late night viewers hungry for the strange watched the show. Going on the show gave Gleason a chance to talk about his own ideas and experiences with experts and fans, as well as to add to a larger cultural conversation about the limits of what people know and have experienced. His appearance on the show had a unique mix of star appeal and genuine interest. In addition, Gleason's link to John Nebel went beyond the radio. He added his voice and authority to the record of Nebel's groundbreaking work in paranormal broadcasting by writing the introduction to Donald Bain's biography of Nebel. This action showed that Gleason respected and admired Nebel's work in studying supernatural issues in a public setting, and his personal dedication to these issues. Gleason was interested in the supernatural all his life. When he died in 1987, his huge collection of books was given to the library at the University of Miami. This large gift showed how interested he was in a lot of different areas of paranormal phenomena, and made sure that other researchers and fans could use the same tools that interested him. The collection will always be a reminder of an intelligent side of Gleason's life that was different from his public image as a broad comedian. The most interesting thing about Gleason's UFO research is that it put him in touch with important political people. This shows how celebrity culture and government disclosure can sometimes come together in strange ways. Larry Holcomb, a writer, says that President Richard Nixon shared information with Gleason because of his well-known interest in UFO. Nixon was even ready to make some UFO-related data public. The specifics of these revelations are still a bit of a mystery, but the link between them shows that Gleason's interest went beyond a hobby. During the Cold War, he joined a group of people, including famous people and government officials, who were interested in the complicated and often secret world of UFO. So Gleason didn't just passively listen to stories about UFO. People spread mysterious ideas through his fame, and the public saw these topics as normal because he was interested in them and wrote about them. There are rumors that Gleason went to Homestead Air Force Base with Nixon in 1973 and saw alien remains. These rumors are based on speculation, but they show how special Gleason's position is at the intersection of entertainment, politics, and the supernatural. Why do you like or dislike Jackie Gleason? Please tell us what you think in the box below. We hope this video was helpful for you. Kindly click like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoy the video, glad you watched and see you in the next film. Thank you.